Have you ever wondered what it's like to live on Mars? That's what we're going to talk about today in another episode of 40 Facts About the 40K Universe. If you're new to the channel, allow me to introduce myself. I am your host, Gersh1, your guide through the grimdark universe of Warhammer 40K. If you enjoy 40K lore, please subscribe to the channel, and if you are a subscriber and you want to support, consider helping us out with a super thanks. Also, we are sponsored by Audible, so if you want more 40K lore in novel form, we have a 15-day free trial linked down in the description below. It's just a credit, and then you can check out cool series. But with all that said, let's get into 40 facts and lore on life on the Red Planet. The Red Planet is the homeworld and the headquarters of the Adeptus Mechanicus, a planet sacred to the faith of the cult Mechanicus. It is the epicenter of Imperial knowledge, and without it, the Imperium would not be what it is today. Mars was the first and is the greatest forge world of the Imperium of Man. Its geography is duplicated on other forge worlds across the galaxy. Entire worlds are terraformed to be made in the Red Planet's image. That's how important this one planet is. Life on this sacred world, however, is filled with a non-stop cacophony of trillions of Martian civilians working day and night to appease the Omnissiah, their god. If you were to stand still on the Red Planet, the first thing you would hear would be the loud and obnoxious clamoring of the giant forge engines that power so many of the vital forge fanes of the planet. Rolling and crushing, these sounds would be as powerful as the sounds made by the massive god engines known as Titans as they stalk the battlefield. Each crush of a forge press would not only be heard, but felt as the vibrations traveled through the entire city. Next, you would hear the revving and accelerating of countless transportation vessels as they traveled through the various flight paths and city streets. Within each vehicle are stockpiles of materials vital to the creation of some Imperial war machine, and as such, they give each transport a unique, forceful sound, like a semi attempting to carry a load far beyond its capabilities. Finally, you would hear the chanting of praying coming from the various altars dedicated to the massive god machines that power the city. These wailing devotional prayers are performed multiple times a day, and some altars are never without devotees crying and speaking their sacred litanies of praise to the machine god, the Omnissiah. Dozens of worshippers would be seen bowing down or on their knees, rocking back and forth, sometimes holding on to sacred pieces of machinery. In their hearts is the belief that their devotion and their methodical movements appease the Omnissiah, and thus allow his machines to continue to function and keep them alive. The most astonishing thing would be the variety of worshippers that would be seen wailing on the walls of these altars. Powerful tech priests, covered in expensive and long-lived augmentations, would be next to child initiates who are barely starting their path to priesthood. All are equally required to show their devotion to the god no matter how far from humanity they are. On altars dedicated to the machine spirits of housing complexes are countless families thanking the Omnissiah for another day. Each vital appliance has its own chapel or an altar to provide the inhabitants the ability to thank the spirit of each machine, such as the God Furnace, which provide countless families with another warm night. Now, the majority of the population of Mars are workers or servants toiling away at a specific task day after day. The lowest tiers of workers do not perform any vital tasks themselves. They are simply there to help facilitate their machine masters. While the machine does most of the heavy work, the workers perform tasks like taking measurements to ensure that the machine continues to cut parts the proper way, or inspecting weapons and parts and calibrating the machine to ensure quality. Below this class of workers are the servitors that fill the manufactorums, performing mundane tasks like pulling out parts and cleaning machines when they're not in use. These creatures are the lobotomized remnants of thieves, heretics, or individuals who just didn't show the proper devotion to the machine god. Amongst their ranks, there exists a class of servitors with a sad and sinister history. In the Red Planet's past, there was a time when the workforce demanded too much from the adepts of Mars. In response, the Fabricator General approved the hiring of millions of workers from outside the Sol system. The newcomers were promised that their travels and accommodations on Mars would be paid for by the adepts, and once working on the Red Planet, the debt would be paid through the wages they earned once on the planet. Finally, a ship carrying these new workers arrived on the planet, but within days, the debt of the voyage and the debt from their living quarters made it clear that these new workers were actually slaves. The only possible way they could free themselves was to pay off the debt, which required some form of promotion. But because there was a limited number of positions available to these workers, the majority could not pay their debt. In response, the Fabricator General approved a law that allowed creditors who had debtors who owed more than they could pay off based on their lifetime to be taken as servitors. Thousands of foreign workers were lobotomized, and Mars gained a massive servitor workforce. The few foreign workers that managed to pay off their debt helplessly watched as their colleagues were taken. The few people that sympathized with the workers and played a part in the servitor creation process managed to tattoo a red teardrop on each of the worker servitors as a means of remembering the cruel lies and the betrayal that these people faced. This story has become a legend on Mars, and you can still find some servitors with the teardrop tattoo. Above the lower tier of workers are the aspiring fabricators that work in a variety of orders. Each one is designed to better understand the Omnissiah's power within their specific manufactorum. This is why you can find orders with similar tasks employed by all of the houses of Mars. The most abundant and well represented of these is the Order of the Artisans. While their title changes depending on the forge or the manufactorum that they work in, they all have similar tasks of controlling the vast labor force of servitors and menials that inhabit their domain. Forge lords, cybersmiths, necromechanics, overseers, underseers, they are all feared and followed by the workers of the planet. Depending on the size of the forge, these ranks are filled with multiple members, all with their own hierarchy and role. But their purpose will always be to pump out enough material to create and restore truly wondrous weapons of war. Now, all houses will have a strong group of logi poring over ancient texts that provide information for the various machines. These scrolls and data slates are filled with specific accounts of machine spirits misbehaving or rebelling against the Mechanicum. They provide possible solutions to the machine spirit's misconduct. These solutions are things like prayers or a prophetic procedure. With this knowledge, the logi will be able to predict when a machine spirit will become upset, or better yet, how to prevent such episodes by determining the proper amount of devotion a machine spirit needs to remain happy. Now, throughout the entire planet is the unmistakable presence of the Martian Skitarii legions. Vast and secure portions of the planet are reserved for the macroclads of the legionist Skitarii. But even then, they do not hesitate to march out into the planet for everyone to see them. Rank upon rank of Skitarii marching around chains of Onager Dooncrawlers. It's an imitation of the Martian nomadic caravans of the past. Shining galvanic rifles are on display as Skitarii wrapped in flapping crimson robes march for the public to see, as war cohorts drill and showboat across the planet. Now, outside of the massive forge cities, the people of Mars continue their thirst for knowledge by probing the wastes and abandoned machines, some as old as the Age of Strife. Conclaves of inquisitive souls are often formed, and expeditions are arranged much like we would arrange a camping trip. Unfortunately, exploration always comes at a price, and for any Martian who takes the risk, danger lurks in the shadows. In the wastes between the sites, parties can be attacked by raiding thieves or even worse, rogue servitors. If they are to survive the encounters and bring back any valuable knowledge, they must immediately report it to their authorities. Failure to do so would be taken as an act of treason by the cult Mechanicus. Beyond the giant cityscapes of the forges is where the true glory of the Titan legions of Mars can be spotted. Enormous effigies of the human form stand vigil over the red planet's rust-covered world. And in the skies is the massive complex of orbital shipyards, refineries, and construction facilities that encircle the equator of the planet. Known as the Ring of Iron, this is where the expeditionary fleets of the Emperor of Mankind during the Great Crusade were constructed. Still functional and churning out starships for the Imperial Navy and the merchant fleets, this massive orbiting station is home to millions of Martians. Life on this station is similar to life on the planet, as all efforts go towards fueling the Emperor's war machine. Now, because the Ring of Iron is a huge structure with a life of its own, and because it's been around as long as the Imperium has stood, there are numerous ancient secrets hidden or lost in the bays and the docks of the station. While it's extremely guarded and secure, there are still those individuals who do not hesitate to open every corridor or explore every tunnel when given the opportunity to do so. Now, even though the Red Planet is home to some of the most intelligent and inquisitive minds, they are still adherents to the cult Mechanicus, which means that the constant sense of being monitored is not a false concept. Tech priests spy on tech priests in order to gain any upper hand they can to whatever endeavor they come across. Paranoia of missing out on knowledge plagues the upper echelons of society of Mars, and as such, hooded figures blend in with the omniscience devotees as they stalk and observe rival tech priests. Population knows that they are constantly being watched, and a discovery or realization on the inner workings of a machine must be divulged to the correct party, otherwise the faceless men that stalk the streets will develop an affinity for the blood of a tech priest who somehow had some new knowledge. And that's life on the Red Planet, or at least a snapshot. There's more information in all of the books, the Codex for Skitarii, the Adeptus Mechanicus, also in the Dark Heresy role-playing game book, or even Wrath and Glory. All of those books you can find on Audible, link down in the description below if you guys want to check that out. But I want to start doing more of these daily life type of videos, so like what's it like to live on certain planets. I've done a bunch already. If you guys want to check out what it's like to live on a pleasure world, one of our most popular videos, I'll put a link up above. But if you have any suggestions for any other topics, please let me know. Like I said, I'm getting back into this, and I hope you guys enjoyed. I'll talk to you guys on the next one. This was Gershwin with the One Mind Syndicate, signing out.
Always used to put my freedom first in any situation.